Here in America, there's no denying that buyers are a little SUV crazy. I mean, just take a look at Mercedes-Benz here in the States. The company's bestseller used to be the C-Class. However, in the last couple of years, that crown was taken away and given to the GLC, a small crossover based off of the C-Class architecture. Which brings me to this interesting new addition to the Mercedes-Benz lineup for 2020. This is the all-new GLB, a crossover that's roughly the same size as the C-Class or the GLC, but it's based off of the A-Class platform, which means you've got a front-wheel drive architecture. You've got a design that looks kind of like a cross between the GLK, the old one, and a G-Wagen, which is their flagship off-roader. And in the interior, you have an optional third-row seat, which should satisfy a lot of American shoppers looking for an SUV that's not too big, with the ability to carry up to 7 people. So the big question I want to answer, if you guys are looking for the latest hot Mercedes-Benz SUV, should you be taking a look at the 2020 GLB? That's what we're here to find out. So before we get started on the Mercedes-Benz GLB review, I want to first give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, Shine Armor. Now, one of the constant struggles I deal with is trying to keep the cars clean in between the shoots, especially on those up-close shots. You guys will really let us know in the comments every time the cars are especially dirty. Now, to do that, I've been using this product for the last couple of years. It's called Fortify Quick Coat by Shine Armor. And what it is a beefed up spray detailer that's infused with a silica and ceramic coating paint sealant on it. So basically it seals, it cleans and protects the paint, and you can basically use this stuff to help lift away the dirt. So you basically don't have to take out that bucket and hose. And if you guys live in a cold area like here in the DC area in the wintertime, you'll know that the last thing you want to do is have to hand wash the car. So I've got this Mercedes-Benz GLC here. This one has the special $2,000 matte finish paint. And this stuff is actually safe to use on this. Shine Armor says it won't actually scratch the paint. So basically, as you can see here, this part of the fender constantly gets caked on with road grime and debris and some dirt. You can see it's very visible here. All you have to do is just spray this stuff on here. The liquid compound in this stuff will actually encapsulate the dirt, so it'll safely lift it off the surface of the paint, so that way it doesn't scratch. And all you have to do is once you liberally sprayed it onto the actual paint, you just take a clean rag and you just wipe off the excess dirt. Now, this is great for trying to keep these cars clean in between the shoots because it does help to protect the paint. And as you can see, once you're done, you are left with this really clean finish. And on this matte finish paint, this car looks fantastic. So if you guys are interested in picking up one of these bottles, Shine Armor is actually running a special holiday BOGO promotion right now. I'll leave the link in the description below. Basically, if you click on that link, you can get up to 4 bottles for free just in time for the holidays. Now, a few months ago when I showed you guys a first look of the GLB, this was a complete surprise to me because I didn't think Mercedes-Benz needed another SUV in their lineup, especially one that's roughly the same size as their bestseller. So I was concerned it may cannibalize sales. But when you look at the GLB from the front fascia, this is one attractive looking SUV. You wouldn't even be able to tell this is a front drive architecture because it has a nice boxy look to it that will remind you of the G-Wagen or the GLK. You can see my tester here is practically a loaded one with the AMG Sport package. You have these full LED headlights. These are the adaptive LED headlights with an LED daytime running light, which mimics the new CLA, which I'm driving also this week. And then down here, you can see there's some nice fake air intake vents with more of the black plastic trim. There's a functional one here that helps create an air curtain over the wheel. Overall, with the polar white, with the black accents, this is kind of what's in the norm. This is really what's attractive nowadays. And I think the GLB has a design that's a little bit more attractive versus the GLC. A lot of you are probably going to like the boxy, more rugged look to the vehicle. And then when you look at the rest of the profile, you can see here the boxiness really comes out, and there's a lot of extra cladding here. Some of you may not like the cladding, so you may want to go with a black exterior color. With the white and the black cladding here, it really stands out. I really appreciate these wheels. These are a 20-inch wheel design wrapped in 235 width tires. These are an optional wheel, of course. It also has these AMG upgraded brakes where you have the cross-rolled rotors. Overall, a lot of you are probably going to think this is better looking than the GLC. I personally think that. In terms of ground clearance, Mercedes-Benz says this is supposed to be off-road capable as well. There's like an off-road engineering package that all the 4MATIC models come with. But when I look at the actual ground clearance here, it looks like it has right around 8 inches of ground clearance. There is no adjustable air suspension on this car, which is something that the bigger Mercedes-Benz models offer, but I would be skeptical in terms of taking this thing off-road. This, again, tries to look a little bit more rugged, but it doesn't really have the necessary off-road credentials. This one here also has a panoramic sunroof with these nice, tasteful roof rail. So if you guys are planning to put stuff on the roof, a lot of you are going to appreciate that addition. In terms of the actual size of this vehicle, its wheelbase has been stretched by about 4 inches versus a CLA or A-Class. At 111.4 inches long, Mercedes-Benz says this is the longest wheelbase in their compact front-wheel drive architecture. And its overall length at 183 inches long, this is about an inch shorter than the GLC. So again, there's a lot of similarities here. When you compare this to the GLA, it's about 5 inches or about 9 inches longer. So this is a significantly bigger car. Now at the rear, you can see again, there's a lot of Mercedes-Benz family resemblance here with these full LED taillights. I like this chrome piece here that's on the bumper that will help protect it from scuffs and scrapes. And then down here with this sport package, you can see there's a nice rear diffuser, tasteful chrome integrated exhaust tips. So I think a lot of you are going to appreciate the look. Now with a boxier design, which you're probably wondering, what's the cargo capacity like? Well, this one here doesn't have the optional third row, but when you fold down all the seats, Mercedes says you get around 62 cubic feet of space. That's roughly about 5 cubic feet more than what you get in the GLC because of that boxier shape. Or when the second row is up, you can see it has around 30 cubic feet of space. So this is pretty much in the norm with the rest of the segment. A lot of you are going to appreciate the additional cargo space you get with the GLB. So the exterior of the new GLB definitely has a boxy look to it, and I actually think it looks really good in relative to the GLC. But let's move on to the interior and see what that is like. Let me first show you guys the key fob. Here is the new or current corporate Mercedes key fob. It does have their keyless go system, so all you have to do is just keep the key fob in your pocket or your purse. As you approach the door handle here, you can see there is a little pad here where you just touch your finger that locks the door for you. And if you want to unlock the door, there's a sensor in the back. Just pull the door handle open and that will unlock the door for you now. My tester here with the white exterior and the cranberry red black two-tone interior definitely looks very nice. It has a sporty, youthful look to it. This interior is an extra $1,500, and then you can see the rest of the interior looks really fancy. I mean, for the base level model of the Mercedes lineup, this looks quite expensive. It's very similar to the CLA that I also just showed you guys. Now, the interior of this particular one here, with these seats, you can see they are heated and cooled. They're power adjustable. They also have the contour function. They have 3-person memory here. And it's overall a really nice impression for this car. I mean, really, a lot of people are not going to think this is the base level Mercedes. Now, getting inside the vehicle, you can see it has a nice, easy step-in height and good sight lines out the front, which is what you expect in this segment of vehicle. Now, when you shut the door, it actually has a really solid sound. Looking at the center stack here, you can see this one has the 2 digital displays, and there's a GLE there for some reason instead of a GLB. I imagine this is a pre-production model. Mercedes hopefully will fix that. To start it up, just put your foot on the brake. There's the button to start the engine. You guys know how to do that. The engine fires right up, and you can see the gauges look very nice. These are interchangeable as well. I have it on the classic setting now. There's 2 screens here, which look fantastic. And then there's a Burmester sound system in my house for $850, which also sounds fantastic. So again, very impressive overall look for the interior. Mercedes is really killing it nowadays with these interiors. Now this tester here, you can see has the MB Tex leather wrap interior with the real wood, the metal trim. That wood, you can change it out to carbon fiber or aluminum if you'd like. The steering wheel you can see here is telescoping. It's manual, but it does have a good amount of adjustability, so I think a lot of people are going to be able to get comfortable. The door panels here you can see have the same stitching. You have heated and cooled seats for $1,500 extra, and Mercedes lets you turn both heated and cool function on. The windows are one touch up and down for all 4, which is basically what you expect in the segment. Aluminum door handle here. There are hard touch plastics on the lower portion of the door panels, but you can see this is their base level car, so there has to be some cost cutting there. Now, looking at the rest of this cabin, you can see the center stack here. The screen itself here, this is the MBUX with their voice commands. You can control it in multiple ways. You can see the nav system here is one of the best in the industry. It has pinch, zoom, it has swipe capabilities. It also has augmented reality, which is really impressive. Mercedes is one of the first brands to do that. The instrument panel here you can see is also interchangeable. You have these 3 circular dash vents, which is very identical to the CLA, dual zone climate control. If you put the vehicle in reverse, you can see it has a backup camera, full 360 camera, which is optional. One of the best resolutions in the business, so Mercedes is really killing it with the technology aspect of their cars. Looking at the rest of the center stack here, you can see there's a wireless charger there, USB port, which is a USB-C for your phone to connect the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. No wireless CarPlay is available on this car. You have to go to the bigger Mercedes models. Now this touchpad here you can see is one of the ways you can control it. There is a dynamic switch selector there where you can switch from sport, comfort, eco, individual. You can also control the screen via that touchpad on the wheel over there. and then that screen can be controlled with the other touchpad. The rest of this cabin really is impressive. I mean, I don't get a sense that this is the base model at all. This center console is nice and padded. You can see when you open it up, it has a deep storage compartment. It's lined with felt. There's another USB in there. These seats are also sportier. They're more aggressive. They have an adjustable thigh support. The glove compartment here you can see is damped and lined with felt. It's a good size, so I think a lot of people are going to like that. The above me, the panoramic sunroof is $1,500 extra. That sunroof definitely lets in a lot of light. There's a little breakup portion there, which is annoying, but my tester is missing the third row seat, which would have been nice to have. It's $850 extra for that third row, but Mercedes didn't have any third row seat options here for us to test because these are all pre-production models, and this car, when it goes on sale later this month or early next year, will be offering that as an option. Now, as a family SUV, the GLB does really well because of that boxy shape. Now, a lot of you are going to really appreciate when you get into the back seat, the fact that these seats are adjustable. I can slide them forward and back to, again, accommodate that third row seat. And you can also pull this lever here and you can recline the seat back as well. So again, this is really good space. This does feel more roomy, especially than the GLA and the last GLC that I sat in. Now, in terms of the legroom, I couldn't find actual specs for the legroom. The GLC has around 36.5 inches. This feels roughly the same. I do have the front seat pushed back a little bit more than my driving position. There is a slight hump here that will take up some space for the middle passenger. You can see there is a 12 volt or a 115 volt outlet here, and then you have two USB-C charging ports. So again, they are giving us the convenience features we're looking for. Two rear seat air vents, and then there's two map pockets here. Now I am noticing the seat itself does sit up a little bit higher, so you kind of get the stadium style seating. And then there's a nice little armrest here that folds down, gives you two cup holders. So overall, as a family vehicle, especially if you guys don't necessarily need the small third row that this car offers, the GLB's second row is going to satisfy a lot of people. Now, underneath the hood of the 2020 GLB, there will be just one engine option here in America for now. This is the company's 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that the 250 gives you. It's making 221 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. That's adequate numbers for most people in the segment. Remember, the GLC has a 300 model, which has about 255 horsepower. So this is down about 30 ponies. It all goes out through a new transmission. It's an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. So an additional gear versus the 7-speed you get in the CLA, but just keep in mind that the GLC has a conventional 9-speed automatic. So this has a dual clutch, while the GLC has a conventional torque converter automatic. Now you can take your pick between front drive or the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system that my tester has here. And fuel economy is actually not bad. The 4MATIC model actually gets slightly better gas mileage. It's rated at 23 in the city, 31 on the highway. That's roughly an MPG more than what you get for the GLC. So again, this is a slightly smaller, slightly lighter vehicle. And as this one sits, it weighs around 3,800 pounds. So again, it's a little bit lighter than the GLC. Now, Mercedes says that the performance is pretty good, 0 to 60 in around 6.9 seconds. This one here with all-wheel drive should satisfy most customers looking for this segment of vehicle. So when I first saw the 2020 Mercedes-Benz GLB, I thought to myself, why on earth does Mercedes-Benz need another SUV in their lineup? I mean, they already have a pretty complete selection from the small GLA all the way up to the big GLS. And the GLB is an interesting car because it is the same size for the most part as the GLC, the company's best-selling SUV. However, it's based on a completely different front-wheel drive Mercedes-Benz A-Class architecture, so it's kind of playing in a different space. I mean, you could compare this thing to like an Audi Q5, BMW X3, but you could also compare it to something like the Audi Q3 or the BMW X1 or even the Mini Cooper Countryman. They've priced it in a way that you could compare it to, you know, some of the full non-luxury brands. But I have to say, driving this GLB, it is a pleasant surprise because it is a nice driving SUV that has pretty good power. And the engine itself, this is the 2-liter 250 model, so you've got 221 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. It's up roughly 13 horsepower versus the old 250 motor you had in the previous generation CLA. But I think the real improvement here is this 8-speed dual-clutch transmission. Mercedes-Benz has really been working to address the faults of the old 7-speed system. And even compared to the 7-speed that I drove in the CLA, this 8-speed is actually quite nice to drive. It's very smooth, it's very responsive. You put your foot down and it just automatically downshifts to a gear that's going to put the engine right in the meat of its power band. The engine itself also is relatively smooth. It does have some fake engine noises I'm hearing from the speakers, it sounds like. But check this out, I put my foot down there and this thing has plenty of power for most people. They say it'll get to 60 in around 6.9 seconds, which is about the norm. Although if you start comparing it to things like the Q5 or the X3, this is slower than those by about a half a second. But I think the power should satisfy most. I think that Benz should consider adding the 35 model. I know there's an AMG version in other markets. I don't think it's been confirmed yet for America. The GLB 250 is so far already scheduled to go on sale in the spring or in the early part of 2020. But I think there could be use for an AMG model. This car could certainly handle the extra power. Now, there are different drive modes. I had it in sport mode earlier. Let me switch it over to comfort, and you can tell the transmission starts automatically going for a top or higher gear to kind of reduce the noise. The engine also gets a little bit quieter. The ride quality, my tester has the adaptive dampers, and this thing has a relatively smooth ride for something that has 20-inch wheels. I'm expecting the ride to be a lot harsher. The one thing that does annoy me a little bit is the road noise. On certain crappy road surfaces, this thing had a fair amount of road noise that I think a lot of people would have an issue with, especially when you look at the price of this thing when it's fully loaded. But in terms of visibility, the GLB is really easy to see out of because of that boxy shape. The view out of the front is good. The side mirrors are a good size. You've got the automatic autonomous emergency braking as standard, but my tester has the driver assistance package for like another $2,000. It rolls in the active lane keep assist, full speed range adaptive cruise control, all the goodies that you basically want, which should be standard, but in typical luxury car fashion, they make you pay extra for it. The view out of the back is also good. I also like the seats in this car. They hold you in place nicely because this one has the AMG Sport package, but they also are relatively comfortable. I also like the fact that they're heated and cooled. The steering in this car also, in comfort or sport, it is relatively sharp and precise. Not really much in terms of feedback, but that's okay when you're dealing with an SUV like this. You don't really look for the feedback quite as much. But overall, this is a comfortable car, and it's going to be interesting to see if it starts cannibalizing sales from the GLC. I mean, there's a lot of people who buy a GLC, but I do find that this is a slightly better looking car, at least in my opinion. Looks, of course, are always subjective. Now, there's nobody behind me. I'm going to put it into dynamic mode here. I just want to put my foot down and see what this thing is like from a stop. A little laggy at first. Now keep in mind, I'm at about 4,500 feet above sea level, so this thing does feel a little bit sluggish, so I'll have to wait and do like a 0 to 60 test when I'm back in the DC area. But for a base motor, this has plenty of power. This is way quicker than the GLA 250, which has about 13 less horsepower than this one. So overall, nice driving SUV, easy to see out of, comfortable, feels roomier than the last GLC that I drove. And really, if you're looking for a third row, this thing is really in a class of its own in the luxury space. Nothing else that's really this size offers a third row option. If you need to make that option, just keep in mind that third row is probably going to be reserved for very, very small children.
So after spending the day driving the newest member of the Mercedes-Benz SUV family, I can comfortably say that a lot of Americans are probably going to find a lot to like with the GLB. It has the same proportions and size of the GLC, but with its boxier, more rugged looking shape, I think it's going to appeal to a lot of buyers. Just be sure that you're not anticipating to take this thing off-road, because it does have some hints of the G-Wagen, their flagship off-roader. However, this is definitely a car-based front drive crossover. It's very comfortable, it's very spacious inside, it's very refined. It has an interior that will seriously blow you away for an entry-level SUV. Mercedes-Benz is just killing it with the interior designs, and I really appreciate the boxy look. Those of you who prefer something that's a little bit more boxy with the cladding and the black wheels, you're gonna find a lot to like, because I think this is actually a better looking car than the GLC. It's gonna be interesting to know when this car does go on sale in early 2020, if this will start taking sales away from the GLC, because I wasn't sure if there's room in the lineup for an additional SUV in the Mercedes-Benz family, but with its optional third row, I'm sure it'll find a lot of buyers in this segment who are looking for a smaller family SUV, but don't necessarily want something with the bulk of their larger GLE or GLC crossover. crossover. Now that brings me to the final point of this vehicle, the price. Now this car actually starts at a pretty reasonable $36,600 for the front drive model. You guys are probably going to spend an extra $2,000 for all-wheel drive. At $38,600, this is about $5,000 less than a comparable GLC. So again, this is a less expensive vehicle. It's also about $4,000 more than the GLA. Keep in mind there is an all-new GLA. Now, of course, with any Mercedes-Benz product, this is not the base model. It has a plethora of options, and because I can't remember all the options, let's take a look at some of the options here. Now, $38,600 to start. My tester has a lot of options. The black and red leather on the inside is $1,500. The natural grain gray black linden wood is $300. The most expensive option that I'm seeing here is the AMG body styling for $2,200. There's also the driver assistance package. The panoramic sunroof is another $1,500. $1,000 for the heated and ventilated seats, the Burmester audio, the ambient lighting, the suspension with adaptive dampers. There's a premium package. I mean, honestly, I was hoping that some of the a la carte options here, Mercedes-Benz would just throw it into a premium package. All in, my tester stickers for $57,800. That's a lot of money, nearly 60 grand. You could easily go into, again, a GLC. You could even look at a GLC 43. Now, keep in mind, there is no AMG version of this car yet available in the States. There is a GLB 35. However, I'm not entirely sure Mercedes has confirmed that's coming to America, but just keep in mind, keep the options in check because you could be spending over mid $50,000 range for something like this. I think in the low $50,000 range, this car makes sense, but just keep in mind, this one here is nearly 60 grand. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2020 Mercedes-Benz GLB 250. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.